Hello. Hello.
Yo,
Hi.
I got burned
Uh,
in Sangale.
Still got 1 minute.
The early bird catches the scotch. I don't know.
What scotch?
I don't know. Some metaphor surely is there. Hey, Tor.
Hey, morning.
Hello. How's coronavirus in Denmark?
I guess the same as everywhere. Well, I mean, we started out being more restrictive, and I think now we're less restrictive. We're still allowed to go outside, so that's good.
Oh, are you able to buy toilet paper?
What?
Is there no toilet paper shortage?
No, people are not really hoarders here in this country, so that's quite nice. You can still get toilet paper.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah.
I mean, I hope I haven't checked. I didn't notice anything missing in the supermarket, and I especially didn't know toilet paper section missing. But now you're making me worried, James. Maybe I should just focus on that.
You should go out and hoard it.
Yeah,
everybody else does.
This morning I had to queue as if I was in like a Soviet bread line. It was ridiculous.
Like you get your toilet paper rations, you know. You get...
Tokens. You should tokenize it, the allowance.
Like the hoarders literally, after hoarding everything, still come back to get more. But they have a limit on how many they can buy, and they're gonna get up early to go there. Like that's what it's like.
Wow.
But the worst thing is, though, is the hoarders do get up earlier than everybody else and dash to the supermarket and get everything.
Yeah, should be a caning for that. Like the Singaporean way. Yeah.
Are you still in Singapore now, or?
No, unfortunately,
the supermarkets are plentiful, James and Gali. We visited the expensive ones. Everything is there.
Well, I'm sorry, your highness, but yeah, no, I'm in the city, so everyone comes here. But yeah.
What expensive supermarket do you have? Whoa.
It's not actually super expensive. It's just slightly expensive, like a 20% price mark.
What is it?
It's you know Belrose, and north of Belrose is St. Ives Showground, right?
No. What's all right? Okay, let me rephrase the question. What is the name of the supermarket that is expensive?
It's called Fresh Produce.
Huh? Sorry.
It's called Fresh Produce.
Ah, right. Okay. Yeah.
It's not
one of
a chain
those.
store. Yeah, it's a
okay.
Like a boutique place, or maybe I don't know. But
got it. Yes.
My wife says some of the stuff is the same price as supermarket. Some of the stuff is expensive.
Yeah.
But
okay.
Yeah. But we are pretty short-handed, so we cannot send someone to scoop stuff, and then we will have to take the price penalty. Okay. So yeah. So if you need stuff, Sangali, come to my home for a barbecue, and on the way back you can visit that supermarket.
Yeah.
But James has been to New Zealand though. That means he might have coronavirus.
Oh.
It's already been 2 weeks. I've already followed the quarantine rules.
So anyone who's on the street, can you put it to mute until you speak?
Oh yeah, no.
Okay.
See ya. Oh yeah, mute it.
Okay. So there are a few topics to go through today, and we will see how much we can do. Oh, is Tor not here? In that case, we will have to chop up.
I'm here.
Oh, wait a moment.
I'm just being muted.
Okay, I see. Good. Hi, Tor. Yeah.
Hey, I'm good.
Yeah. So starting from a not Tor topic, so let's look at the DAO scenario. So we are already planning to have a look at my screen, and there are activities being shared here. I don't know if you can see it clearly. There is a voting for vice chairman. Voting for vice chairman is open. Voting class closes at midnight. 1 hour left. Can you see this message? It's almost in the middle of the screen. It's the 1, 2, 3, the third one in a row.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, good. So, this is the design. This is a design idea that Boone talked with me before briefly, just between two of us. That JSX can be a template language used to generate this kind of view. So, what you are seeing here, like voting for vice chairman, is open. This is an event from a smart contract, and you can consider it is translated into a view. And in reality, it is there is a view defined in TokenScript that sources data from the event as well as the attributes of the token and generate this view. Every view like this can be opened in the full view. So it's the same thing like token has an item view. You click an item view, see the token view. Here you see an activity, it's an activity item view, and if you click it, you can see a activity full view. So the proposal that we're talking about is, can we use something like JSX, which is JavaScript template language, to produce this content? And can we do it in such a way that we run the JavaScript and we capture the DOM representation of the view and cache it there, so that these item views are rendered very quickly instead of having to run JavaScript through every item view? And can we use traditional React JS-based method to update the full view, the actual view, the activity full view or the token full view? And thirdly, can we make this abstract? That is, to a certain extent, the developers can choose what technical framework to use to produce the view. So that opens the door for someone to develop new ways to render a view. What we envision is probably WASM. Yeah, so that's the topic. So do you need a little bit explanation of what JSX is? Hello?
Just a
Yes.
what is it? Just quickly.
Boone, you proposed it first.
Oh, okay. It's a templating language that looks like HTML. It was designed and first appeared with the React JS library. The idea is you write that instead of you write HTML files. JSX is transpiled into JavaScript to generate the HTML DOM.
And who does that? Does it happen in the web view, or do we need a an interpreter?
We will need to find or develop an interpreter if we use it.
Okay.
And so you know JSP, right? This is a server-side HTML generation language. JSX doesn't generate HTML, it generates JavaScript. And the JavaScript in turn renders HTML. So, instead of generating HTML, it renders HTML and you have to capture the in-memory HTML if you want to cache it.
Yeah, okay, got it.
Where
okay,
JSX, you just produce HTML, you can just keep the file.
Yeah.
So what do you think? This is a proposal for the next step to allow the customization of activities.
Can I just ask a question, which is
as well as tokens? Yes.
Like,
by the way, apparently, if any data in the token is updated and that data is being used in a token item view, or if an activity has been updated, or that an activity becomes anyway, like one of the item view becomes dirty, we don't update the item view. We simply discard them and produce another in-memory representation as a replacement.
Okay.
That's what I propose here.
Okay, so I've got a question about this JSX thing. Why? what is up with HTML JavaScript, which doesn't require an additional service.
We're already like halfway there though, right? When we render in JavaScript already.
But
it's faster apparently because it uses a virtual DOM rather than the actual DOM.
Yeah. So what you do here is so the question is, why don't we
Okay,
use JavaScript?
so basically it produces a pre-baked view. It's like okay, I think I kind of see what you're doing. All right, okay, yeah.
And
Okay.
also,
Yeah, I believe you inject components into it, so it doesn't need to update the whole DOM. It just injects the updates into whatever section.
But wouldn't using HTML like we do now have the same effect performance-wise?
It is. We can use current JavaScript, which draws the element by getting document, right? Sorry, by writing into the DOM tree using the Web3
Yes.
object, right? We can keep using
Yes.
that. I'm proposing that even if we keep using that, we don't include reference to React JS library in the item view. Because item views,
Right.
I propose a design that item views, when dirty, are discarded and not updated. Discarded and regenerated. This is for the benefit of not having to maintain a lot of web views when you look at a lot of tokens or activities.
Yes, but I think James Brown's question was, why can't we do it with our current approach?
Actually,
I'll go on a bit more.
Please.
Or maybe a slight tweak to our current approach. So right now, when we display a view, we use a web view. With the additional support for using JSX or any kind of templating language, we will still use we will still have to use a web view, but running in the background, generate and render the HTML, and then cache it, probably as an image.
Yeah, we can potentially also only use one single web view, because you can create the internal DOM representation and somehow play with style sheets so that they are relevant to only the container element.
Yes. So with these two approach, we will still have at some point with both approach we have to end up with the DOM, the HTML rendered in the web view, and then cache off in the background.
Yes, and the intention is to make it fast and to make it searchable. Imagine in a mobile phone, the search field you can see right there, but it's even useful on the web. So imagine that you have a lot of tokens. The website says that these are the tickets for sale from FIFA tickets. And that web page, if there's a way to catch that, it will be available to Google.
What about, okay, I'm just trying to work out why we can't just use text and sort of text substitution. So basically, instead of having a view, which needs to be rendered in HTML, all of these notifications, unless they are allowed to put graphics in the middle of them, they all appear to be just text only. So why not just render them as just a pure text object, a string?
Are you suggesting like we provide, say,
Time
a set
leaf?
of three pre-built templates?
Something like that.
And let them fill that in?
Yes. I mean, that would solve a lot of issues, because then if you store the text as, well, the text that changes, if you store that in a database, a Realm database, which is what we're going to have to do anyway, then you get very quick searching.
James, so the template language, if we use that is irrelevant to JavaScript, what comes to my mind is timer leaf. Time leaf, do you still remember that is a template language used in Spring Framework?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And I can also use XSLT, but people didn't like it. So the argument against both is that today's developers are millennials and they only know how to write in JavaScript.
Okay.
Well, that's the guess.
So you're saying, okay, so you're saying that today's developers like writing in JavaScript and HTML, and yes, I totally agree with you, they do. So you're proposing to do something that isn't JavaScript and HTML. Is that not compromising? Is that not going against what you just said?
Okay, JSX is one thing. That doesn't have
Yes.
to be. Actually, if we use a Web3 object and we write it in JavaScript, as long as it doesn't refer to the React framework,
Yes.
I can accept that proposal too.
Yes, yes. I mean, the thing is, I've just been working with Chintan to get this whole thing working. And once I showed him how to look, the view is just pure JavaScript and HTML, and you can work on it externally and then feed the results back in. He's away now. But if you'd have got this additional framework stuff, I'm thinking that it's actually complicating things slightly.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards that as well, but just from like an I'm not developing on this, but I yeah, sort of agreeing with that same perspective there. That if it is just a string message, and like the problem we're solving is showing a notification string, why not keep that simpler and keeping it as a string that's somewhat parameterized?
Yeah, that's right. You can just do that with HTML as well. So the developer can just be working.
It's certainly more complicated.
It might be over engineering, yeah.
But well, you need to provide stuff like for example, if you don't convert your site to die and deadline is approaching, you might want to turn everything red or put a exclamation mark there. Like once you go to string, it's kind of natural that 1 year or half year later somebody wants to have a rich text.
Okay, how about using the something like the GitHub, like what you use with GitHub?
Like
you have you have smart characters. So you just like how you put like quote for to indicate code.
Markdown.
Yeah, markdown. That's right. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah.
So basically, you are suggesting that the item view is actually not a view; it's just a string, but we allow wiki style stuff in it.
Yeah, why not?
If we do it progressively, I know maybe this is leaning on that MVP kind of scenario, but until people push the boundaries, is it worth over engineering now or keeping as a string and then converting it with a complexity later, like doing it fully and properly later?
That only happens if you have a straight upgrade line. For example, if I take James Brown's approach to use JavaScript, but not using JSX and not using React Native, we can progress to JSX in the future. But if we start with a wiki, we cannot just progress there. We will end up maintaining two threads.
Well,
okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would lean towards string first, and then something else once people push its boundaries. But up to you.
So
we need to feed the select value back into from the event, say for example. We need to feed that back into a string. So you could just use the same notation as JavaScript. You know how when you do like dollar brace and then the select value and then close brace. So that's it's just a variable substitution that uses the JavaScript syntax.
Also observe that like for example, it says 1 hour and 45 minutes left.
Yes.
So this kind of stuff you can
okay, I see. Okay, yes.
So similar thing is that
you need to program it.
Similar thing like if you let's say if you look at the wallet, you have Ether and you have XDAI, count from right to left, and you have a FIFA World Cup ticket and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So there's a need for status information. Let's say if your FIFA ticket is going to be used in 3 hours, or like if you simply don't care about layout. So example, we say every token is followed by issuer, but sometimes it's apparent. American Express token is issued by American Express. You only need to see that in a detail. Then you might as well put other stuff in it.
So are you describing now the wallet token token views? Okay.
Both of them are item view though.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
So James, sorry, Boone, do you have any argument against what James Brown proposed? That is, we don't use JSX, but we still use JavaScript.
I just want to keep it as simple as possible. That's all. Because when we go to explain how to develop in this, like we've been introduced to it gradually. So we've gradually, we had the first schema and then the second one. So we understand it. But when you come to explain to other developers, to new developers who are new to it, they run into this huge adoption barrier. Now, if you're using 3 different frameworks in the same script, I would argue that it looks a lot more frightening than if you've just got, JavaScript and HTML.
Okay,
But we don't want to scare people off.
Yes, but there are several options here, and which one are we talking about?
So plain JavaScript without React and cage the DOM tree. That's a one combination. Let's call it James Brown's idea. And your idea is on top of that uses JSX. Actually, is it you or me? It doesn't matter. You mentioned JSX first, but I put that into the item view. So that's two ideas. Text idea, I don't know. I don't want to go that direction.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. But how prevalent is JSX? Like, is it something that most people who we expect to use this would know about?
I've never seen it anywhere. I'm looking around the Web3 space. I'm not saying I'm heaps active in it necessarily, but I've not seen it personally.
Okay.
But that just might
It's
be my
common among
bias.
React front-end devs, though. .jsx you often see.
But wait a moment. A developer who doesn't know React JS is able to develop an item view and a full view at the moment. They can do that. They can do a full view without.
It's very
React.
easy to see what's going on.
So it's not. So putting that into the dependency might be an issue.
But the way that we do things currently, the Boon and JS way of doing it, that way, even if you've never seen that framework before, it's easy to see what's going on straight away.
So I'm concerned that using JSX, we may end up with the same problem of using time relief, which is a good technology that you don't always get an answer from Stack Overflow with.
If my memory serves me right, the original reason why I suggested JSX was because we had this theory that we want to offer React JS as an option to developers writing TokenScript.
Oh,
because
okay.
they are really familiar.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and we wanted a template, a way to write templates for item views. So I suggested if we are going to use a template, we might as well use JSX as the templating language.
But JSX
because there's an intersection. Yes.
JSX is not really template language; it's a rendering.
Yes, but when the developer writes it, it's going to work like a templating language. So I think that the point is whether we provide a flexible templating language, JSX or similar, even though it's not really a templating language, or do we keep what we have but we cache aggressively, which we will have to do even if we use a templating language. Or there is a third option. Oh, sorry, just one more point. Or there is a third option. We design and offer a set of templates that is pre-baked. For example, you pointed at the wallet tab. So that is one layout. Let's call it layout 1. In the activity tab where your cursor is no longer there, to the left of the wallet tab, you can call it template 2. So the developers can choose which template they want to use, and then they just fill in the values.
Yes, I like that very much.
Yeah.
That's
So the idea of being presented on the picture second to the right is that there is a default item view defined for all ERC20 tokens, which simply takes the balance variable followed by the symbol variable, and followed by the network name and the issuer name, and then with the icon to the side. And this is like the kind of ERC20 TokenScript that is shipped with Alpha Wallet.
Yes, and the same with the NFTs as well.
So basically, the token developer can simply not define item view unless they are in a dangerous situation, like, for example, the ENS contract is hacked and please update. Then they have to define a new TokenScript with a new item view. Otherwise, you can just go with it.
Yes, it just defaults to something, and it just tries to source the icon from, like, we do have there. Somebody built a huge list of contracts versus icons, which we'll be using, and then we'll maintain that. And then if developers want to add their icon, then they just have to submit a PR the same way that they do now with dApps.
one question for Wei Wu though. I suggested this third approach previously, but I think you had a reason for not wanting to do it. Do you remember why? No, static fixed templates.
Not, oh, sorry. I was proposing inheritance. I didn't. Is this same thing as your fixed thing?
I am not sure.
So by inheritance, I mean there is a ERC20 token script shipped with the product, and it defines the item view as well as the activity view for typical sending and receiving ERC20 tokens. And then every token script can define their own item view or their own view. Actually, the same thing also have the full view. And is this the same idea as your fixed thing?
For your suggestion, how does the developer define their own item view?
By simply having the item view under the card.
But how do they write it, define it, describe the layout?
Yeah, that is a different problem, right? Or do we think there's the same problem?
Maybe you have include files, so it's like
because
an
they
include.
will simply develop in the same way the ERC20 token script is developed. If the ERC20 token uses JSX or JavaScript without JSX, then they do the same.
Oh, okay. Then there's not one of the options, right?
So the inheritance has nothing to do with the choice of
templating.
Yeah, yes.
The layout.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there still a question?
Yes. Okay. Let me make sure I'm getting the topic we're discussing about correct first.
Usually it's my fault though.
That's okay. The where your cursor is, that's the fourth screen with the wallet tab selected.
Oh, you can see my cursor. Good. Zoom. Good.
Yes. Can you move one screen to the left, please?
Okay.
Yes. Okay. This in case other people can't see, I'm referring to the activity tab, which has a list of item views. We are talking about how do we describe the layout of each of them, each of the item view, right? So early on, we were talking about, can we offer a templating language or templating engine? JSX was a suggestion. We can offer something similar, something else. And this is one possibility, to have a templating language. The second option is we just use whatever we have right now, which is to write HTML and JavaScript to generate an HTML. We still need to modify this a bit because there will be many rows of item views. So we need to cache this aggressively. Even if we go with the first approach, a templating language, we will have to do this too.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine when you import the key the first time, the mobile phone will say building activities and you have to wait 5 minutes.
Yes, or when the user scrolls, the screen will be mostly blank with like 6 empty rows, and then after a while the data will appear. So I was saying these are the two approaches. We can consider a third one, which is to offer a fixed pre-designed set of templates or layouts. An example is if you look at the screen to the right, the wallet tab, that is one layout. If you go back to the activity tab, we can say that there is a second layout. When the TokenScript author wants to describe his item view, he can say that I want template 1. And template 1 has, by definition, because it's pre-designed, has an icon on the left. It has 2 rows of text. The first row is in bold. The second row, there are 2 values. So the developer just have to populate these 3 text fields and provide an icon.
Okay, so did you finish?
Yes. Oh,
Okay.
Sorry, just one more note.
Yeah.
I thought that you said it's a good idea just now. So I was just pointing out that quite some time back ago, we were talking about this. I suggested this, and you thought that we should not do this. So I wanted to make sure that you understand what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
just
Sounds like sensible defaults or something.
You're welcome to keep reminding me things. I mean, I forget things, but I never noticed you did one. So usually it's my fault. Okay, so now I've taken in the multi-template approach, and I explained my view on that. Okay, so let's look at this view with the list of tokens. What I see here is there are two scenarios. One scenario is that you have a ERC20 token, and the other scenario is that you have traditional ERC20 token, which is working and nothing bad happened to it. Like you don't have to urgently stop user from using it because contract has been updated, or you don't have to notify the user there's a rename, just plain ERC20. The other case is everything else. So really, if you look at here, if imagine this being the World Cup ticket, imagine there's only one, then the World Cup ticket has only one thing to tell you that you should redeem this ticket and watch your football. If you see next one, which is a car token, then there might be a few things. For example, if you lend your car to someone, you might put a notice there, actually you cannot use the car because it's rented by someone. You can put words here, or it's more likely the designer will put an icon which shows that somebody else with their car and say that the car is rented, you cannot use it, or you can use it. Or that you have a conference ticket, and this conference ticket is special because it's a gift. Therefore it's non-transferable, then they maybe have some icons on it that shows it's non-transferable. My point basically is that for ERC20 token, everything is alike. For non-ERC20 token, let's call them smart token. They are actually quite different apart from each other. So I see that practically the developers either want to have a default one or make their own. And I'm not envisioning them to see a lot of choices and hey, this is what I want. If they really do, they actually copy the TokenScript of the one that they really want. In the idea of keeping stuff simple.
Can I summarize that your point is that it will be too restrictive?
There's not more than one common set. If you provide template, it's for a set of token, and there's only one common set, which is ERC20. So the advantage of providing a template, like you can choose from template A, B, C, the green color, the blue color stuff, or the modern one, or the traditional one, is that the upstream can update it without you writing the new token script, which is a very small benefit.
One big benefit is performance. Another benefit.
So by performance, you mean that these are not rendered by template stuff are not rendered by HTML and JavaScript?
Yes, remember the days before we the first 2 years where our FIFA tickets were rendered in the app itself? Mm-hmm. Yeah, something like that. Oh, like so how we hard-coded.
Yeah, hard-coded. Yeah,
our FIFA tickets. Yes.
Yeah. So therefore, it's a lot faster. Yeah.
But of course, there is still a benefit for developers because, like James Brown said, and I think James Sangali also mentioned a few times, it is harder for newcomers to TokenScript to write views. So if there is a set of templates where they can see how it looks like,
that's
how it's going to look
exactly what I'm thinking at the moment you said it. So for example, if I want to say that, if I want to put the exclamation mark and say die is no longer there, you have to transfer it to x psi. Then I want to just add stuff on the view, and not having to recoup something that is similar to the natively built one.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking from the developer perspective, and I think sensible defaults that you can tweak a little bit, like that incremental onboarding, but in this case for developers is very valuable, I think, for developers.
So imagine that there's a car token and you need to display an icon says that it's rented away. You just want to put an icon there. Yeah. So you just copy the stuff and then put an icon there. Yeah.
Are you saying that that's difficult to do if we provide pre-built templates, or are you saying something else?
There are nuance there. If we provide pre-built templates, we also need to provide the corresponding code that the user can do to recreate the look and feel of that pre-built stuff.
Why is that?
Just because developers love to do that. Like, okay, this is the X style one. Let's modify a little bit to make it myself.
I see. Okay, the argument if the argument for pre-built templates is it will be easier for developers to start, and of course there'll be less customization. Actually, no customization.
There are two advantages. One is that what you said. The other is that if we want to change it, we don't have to update every TokenScript, because only those TokenScript has customization have to be rewritten in order to look and have the same look and feel of the new layout. But we can simply change the layout, assuming 99 of them are inheriting the same stuff.
Oh, okay. I think if we go with this approach, then there will be no customization. They can only fill in the values.
Why? Like the last time when I have to change to side, they really want everybody to be aware of that. And also, if I write car token, I really would want to put an icon saying that you cannot drive off your car now.
Yes, but with this approach, if we want to be able to do that, then in our pre-built templates, on the right-hand side, we will have to provide a field or an image for the developers to show something.
Okay, so maybe
we're talking past each other a little bit, I think.
So maybe to satisfy both, is it something like we have this inheritance structure where the top level is more abstract but has the essential things in it, and then we provide one descendant that is the sensible default, and by default any developer that brings it uses that sensible default. If they want to be clever, they can modify that one, either inherit from it or inherit from the parent, but they can't change that parent because that has the sensible thing.
That is what I call CSS problem. So
okay,
you know what I mean?
That's okay. Yeah, I'll just, if it's a problem, then I'm happy to just revoke that.
So early CSS was designed with this approach that there's a base layer and you can define stuff. But that begets next problem, that is whenever you want to modify something, it's really difficult to find out which piece of code was making the current behavior like that. Was it from this level, or was it from the template, or was it from a customization based off on this one? And then because it's and because developers are lazy, they simply every time they will forcibly declare everything. Like the font size has been declared 100 times, but they still want to declare it one time because now they regain the control over the class they're inheriting.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking of trying to capture both scenarios. Like one problem is when there's something essential to be changed, if that's in the parent class and that gets changed, upstream or whatever, then that will filter down to all descendants, either the default descendant or other descendants. But if maybe we don't cascade as much, but anyway, that was just a thought.
So your idea would work. For example, if we completely change the name, the layout, and not mention Ethereum blockchain because we find out everything is on Ethereum blockchain, we can simply change the template and put the issuer in place of Ethereum blockchain, and then everyone will inherit this behavior. And if we use a copy and paste and a customization method, then the one that is customized will not inherit the new changes. But I think that's
I'm not sure if that's what I meant. I was just thinking of the CDI, XDI CDI example. If something essential like that name is in the parent, and maybe this is what you understood, but if something like that is defined in the parent, and that's, let's say that's it, and then one example implementation is the string layout and the icon where it is, and that's the default. If someone says, actually, I want something different, they have to maybe copy that and put it alongside and also descend from that abstract parent, which has the XDI in it. And then when XDI changes to CDI, or whichever way, then the default template and any other custom descendant from that parent template update that string accordingly. Is that how you understood it? And that's
sorry, I previously thought you meant that there is a template, for example, FIFA World Cup ticket, and the template defines the ticket, the title there, and the Ethereum blockchain, and the bar followed by issuer Shanghai issuer, and that's the template. And then if the user wants,
I would say that's one. I guess I was using the XDI example because that was the one you used that said if XDI needs to change to CDI, then that was the essential change that you want captured in the default and other. So my thought was, if there's a minimal abstract thing that has the essential information known at the time, and then one default implementation, if that parent changes and any descendants of the parent change, then it will get that small text change.
Not sure if
but
I...
if it's not making sense, we can let's just skip it. Does anyone? Sorry, does anyone else understand what I'm trying to say? Can anyone rephrase it?
Not me.
Okay, never mind.
But can't we just inject just set different values to be displayed?
Sorry, are you saying that instead of defining a view, you simply say that the first field, the second field, and then let the developer to choose which field to put there, right?
Yes, that's what I suggested as the third approach.
Yeah.
So the layout is fixed. Yeah.
So okay, I'll give you an example. Okay, two examples actually. One example being that if I have a car and the car is being rented into the car next door, then the car still belong to me. I can still collateralize it for a home loan, for example. I can still attempt to sell it, but I cannot drive off the car because it's already rented to someone. Then in this case, in the field approach, you will end up with one car token, status, rented. But ideally, the developer might want to put a icon there to say it's occupied. That's one example. And the other example being like, for example, James Brown's home token. So let's say James Brown is near his home. That's a triggering event. Let's say this event is similar to the event of blockchain event, because basically event is not restricted to blockchain. We will talk about that later. But basically, the James Brown enters his home area, and he sees that his home log token is highlighted because now he can open the door with the token. And that highlighting is probably not a field name which says status, you are near home. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, you are saying that the developer will want to define
how the token behave, yeah, to a certain extent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but
so
for your first example,
please,
where there's a state or status, it's up to us when we design the pre-built templates to put a placeholder for that. But you are right. If we are concerned that it is too limited because we can't foresee all the use cases the developers will envision, then yes, I agree. It is limiting in this case. But but this suggestion is to answer, I think, the point from James Zaki where we might be over designing it, because this is really simple.
Actually, what you say about having the fields stacking up one next to the other is over design, because that has assumption in it.
Yes, but but the other approach with a
simply making
template engine.
The template engine, that's also I think it's over designed, because you are also making assumption that there will be three types of token, and developers prefer to choose that theirs to be one of them. And it's one additional concept for developers to learn, that not they can write view, but also they can borrow view. And borrow view is not copying the code, but making a reference to a template. That's also adding to the learning. So I consider them over design, not under design. Not HTML, JavaScript being over design.
Okay, I see it as over design, the templating approach, because engineering wise, when we build it, it was going to be more complicated. And the flexibility provided by that means that the TokenScript authors will probably find it harder to start, just like they find it hard to start writing views, TokenScript views as of now.
That's my sense as well.
Yeah, so while we might over design with static pre-built templates, as in we try to foresee what kind of design they will need, but we can say come up with, I don't know, 5 templates, and while we might put in more effort to design and foresee what they might need, implementation is simpler and it makes it easier for TokenScript authors to see. This is the only 5 layouts you can have. Just stuff your text, your values into it, and icons. I'm not saying that this is much better. I'm just saying that if we want to make it simpler for especially for the TokenScript authors, then this is one approach.
I mean, if we look at Apple screens, it's like 320 by 480 were things people were coding as constants. Boone, you probably remember the early days of iPhone. Yeah, people just would put that in their code because they knew every piece of hardware was 320 by 480. But then what did Apple do? They expand one dimension first. Then they slowly release the other dimension. Like they released the constraints slowly because they could.
Yeah, there are much to learn from the way Apple do things. So the item view as well as token views are context based. So they're not only going to be used in the wallet. If you check out with let's say if you buy beer, and on the checkout screen you might be greeted with a message that you do want to check out with credit card, American Express, or do you want to check out with XDAI, or do you want to check out with Ethereum, and you will be greeted with item view too. Because ultimately, TokenScript was designed to be used in Web3. And the reason we didn't put it on Web3 was because Web3 is not really taking off. So by having that like an Apple approach, Apple is quite context clear. Okay, you have this icon because you want to use Apple iPhone. So that they are not contributing to Web3.
Yes.
So yeah. Now you have the argument that if you would we have a few templates there, and you cannot actually put a template like FIFA World Cup car token with rented or not rented as a template. Your template is probably going to look like this, like a car token with 3 or 2 icon slots on the upper right corner. Because if you actually put rent or not rented in the template, then the next time when the user have something that cannot be rented, they cannot use this template. So I would assume when you say template, it simply means the slots available on the upper right corner to show the status. And the name of template is token with status.
Let me try to describe this pre-built template again to just make sure we understand it to be the same thing. I'm referring to, for example, one template could be, it has one icon on the left. So the developer can specify the image they want to display, not us. Then it will have a text label that, let's say we call it a title, is in bold. The developer can specify the string to display. There is a subtitle label. The user can specify the string. And then on the right-hand side, there is another icon. I'm just making this up. The developer can specify if they want to display an icon on the right or not. So this is what I'm talking about. Is that what you are thinking about? So for example,
my previous understanding that there is 3 templates to choose from, ABC, because you just provided the generic one.
Yes, it's a generic one, but the layout is fixed, as in the title is there with a fixed font size, is in bold. The subtitle is not in bold, in regular and slightly smaller font size. Just like if you look at the wallet tab, that is one example, except that all the text and the images can be changed at runtime.
Yeah, so let me talk about the advantages of your solution, okay? The first advantage is that the user choose the TokenScript developer choose a template element instead of coding the template. If the user is if the TokenScript guy is a guy who doesn't like coding, this is a boom. This is a bonus, pro. And the second advantage is that you can change the template without having to have all the TokenScripts signed again.
Who can change it?
You, because you are providing a template. The Alpha Wallet engine or any TokenScript engine provider, they can change their definition of, let's say, the layout, and they don't have to ask every TokenScript author to recode this thing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
I would say a minor advantage though.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, okay. So the primary advantage is that you don't have to write any code if you want to have an item view, but you still want to write code for actual view, right?
Yes, of course. We are not discussing about changing how the main view works. But the developer still has to write JavaScript to generate and plug in the values, because this is how they interface with. For
example, you have to define icon 1, icon 2, and icon 3, and maximally 3 status icons are allowed. You can have a car collateralized and rented, and broken, and that's all the three status. It should be enough. So this is the thinking, right?
Yes, if we want to make it smaller scope, simpler to implement.
Or that
yes.
If you have a home opening token, then the status might be you are near home and you are not near home. So there should be only one status.
Yes, and because the developer is up to the TokenScript author to specify which icon or which text to display. They can display it as rented, not rented, available, not available. We are not constraining them.
Yeah, yeah. So so that's the advantage. Okay, I'm just trying to go through advantage and disadvantage.
I guess for comparison, just on that point, that's very much, again, the Apple way for their table views. You can have this default view where you have the major heading and a kind of like a subheading and an icon, and that's sort of the default type kind of template. But if you then, for certain clients, they want fully customed things, then you can go whole hog and then change that and render your own table view cell. But yeah, just the paradigm that matches, again, like how Apple does that.
So yeah, that's what we can learn from Apple. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
yeah.
I'm going to have to get going now because it's dinner time.
25 minutes ago already.
Yes.
45 minutes already spent.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I'm sorry about that, James. I can probably come to you later. Okay. About the rest of the discussion.
It's okay. I think we're kind of wrapping up now anyway.
I actually don't agree with that idea. And would you give me an opportunity of explaining the disadvantage? Because I was being respectful to finish listing the advantage first, not that I actually agreed. And since we are ready to go.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So so the disadvantage is that it doesn't fit into Web3 model and context-based programming model, which I'm going to explain. And the fact that it doesn't fit has any no issue right now, but it will create a baggage that we will have to support the historical representation when we actually move to the next stage of supporting Web3 stuff. So let's say if you have a car token, for example, and it's in your wallet, then the status that the car is rented out and you cannot drive it away is immediately relevant to the user. So you can define the item view under the wallet context to make this status really visible. And if you are listing a car for sales, this information is irrelevant because the buyer who wants to buy the car can always stop renting the car, or that whether or not at the moment the buyer wants to look at, inspect, wants to check if the car is a good car, if the price is good, at that moment, whether or not it's rented to someone is relevant. On the other hand, whether or not the car has been written off and repaired and get the roadworthiness again, it becomes relevant. So you can imagine that in the market context, the token wants to represent itself in a different way. Similarly, if you are going to a website asking for a loan, whether or not the car is fully collateralized or half collateralized is the most relevant information. So that breaks the context programming thing, which means that when we actually introduce context-based programming, we will still have to support the template, which is no longer that relevant. That's one thing. The other thing is that if the developer wishes to put this as a widget on the website, which to support Web3 scenarios, they might have to they might find the default is not the one they really want to, but I don't know if they will. I feel that there will be a hurdle to transfer from one mindset of filling the table into developing a Web3 component. Yeah.
One of the things that I'm worried about, if each one of these wallet items is a web view, the wallet's going to run like a dog once there's a lot of tokens.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just thinking if there's some kind of template language, even if it's very simple, that we can develop. So you have like this is exactly Boone's original idea in the meeting, where you have like a set of templates, and then you can put information into them. So for example, you could actually develop a special template. So for your there's some kind of status that's different. You can have a set of preset things, like a little exclamation mark or something, you know, to indicate there's something up with this token. But if each one of these is a web view, the wallet is going to be horrible.
Yeah. That is true. That is true. That is an. We're still talking about this view being wallet centric, right? It's like how it gets done in the wallet.
Well, I mean, with the when you click on a token and it renders the views that way, it's acceptable that it runs slower because generally with an NFT, you've only got one view, and the same with a you know, an ERC20, you've only got one view that's being rendered. But when you've got multiple web views being rendered, it's pretty terrible.
Yeah.
You know, like when we've created like 20 tokens, 20 NFTs, and then you view them, it's yeah, you can see each one like dong, you know, rendering. It's not really a good look.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm definitely more in favor of
performance-wise, you don't want to have a web view. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, that's clearly.
And it just as you scroll, you've got flickering, and it's just not good. It doesn't look like when you go to other wallets like you know, Mark Preller's Alice wallet and stuff like that. You know, when you scroll, that's what you want to see. You want to see the views coming up straight away and just being smooth. Okay, you know, it might not do very much, but it looks good.
And to address your point, Wei-Wu, about the paradigm shift, if someone's doing a template and then they're going to be thrown because now they have to code a view, it's normally demand based. Like, again, from my experience in developing apps, like I'm very comfortable for an app that doesn't mind a simple interface to do like the default template view. But I know when it was for L'Oreal or something, it's like, no, I need to get custom here, and then I've got to go in there and do something special. So it's very much demand driven, and you'll expect to do something more when you need to do something.
That's I think the situation. That's what, I think. Can you hear me, James Saki?
Yes.
Yeah. I think the situation you just raised is more analog to the solution I proposed earlier, where the developer is able to copy and paste. Therefore, they are able to modify it when the new demand raises, because that's a natural progression. But if you introduce a template, that's not supposed for you to be able to customize it. If you jump from choosing template and filling in the parameter into on-demandly create another template, that creates a barrier too.
Wait. I think what we can do, I mean, we'll have to resolve this outside of this meeting, but what we can do is we can have a common language where you can define simple templates, which is actually native to both iOS and Android. So like both of them have the same concepts of layouts. And if you can define, you can programmatically define a layout, which is hundreds of times faster than a web view.
Yes,
and I think that's the way that we're going to have to go down. So basically, we discussed
that before too.
Yeah.
So
you can override these views, but you don't have to. But you can, and there's a framework for doing that.
So we discussed this too back in 2018. So at that time, we were discussing why can't we use the same form, the Android form, which is the UI container. It's actually XML file, but it's not relevant if it's XML file.
That's right. Yeah,
why can't we reuse it? And besides, our Android developers already familiar with that. And then
I'm not saying specifically use that. I'm just saying use something like that that's renderable in both as a native view.
Yeah, and that let's say we invent a language. Actually, SVG is a pretty good candidate for that already. But
sure.
Let's say we invent something.
Well, actually, no, it's not. But anyway.
Oh, I can make argument for that too, but let's not go deep in that route, okay?
Yes.
So let's say we invent another one. Then we have the issue where we have a presentation layer language again. So you remember the story that we have too many standards. What do? We have a standard that really works, and then once you have that, you have one more standard.
But, what I'm saying is you won't be able to use the web view on the wallet page. That's what I'm saying. You definitely won't be able to do that. And have a pleasant to use app.
James,
I'm afraid I'm going to have to go now. I have another meeting in 2 minutes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Sorry about
Thanks,
that.
Tor.
So, anyways, take care, guys. Have a good one.
Yeah.
Okay. Cheers.
James, I would totally agree with you if you say that we cannot load more than one web view with React. That is proven impossible, and it's proven to be too slow. And whether or not we can load a list of web views, there's a chance that it's pretty slow too. Whether or not
it is it is, it's not a chance. It is pretty slow. But carry on.
can we do experiment how slow it is?
Sure.
Yeah, and whether or not we can use the caged version of them, I think we still can. Can we mix this technology? Can we mix
It's
it?
it's possible.
Even if it's even if it's like a static HTML, you mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
if it's generated and then
Yeah,
put
like
into
a
the web views.
pre-bake. Yeah. So basically,
Pre-baked,
you'll be filling in all of the JavaScript, like executing the JavaScript, and then taking the resultant HTML and just caching the whole of that, like as a base 64 or something.
And again, that's the custom option, right? If we're thinking of there's default template that's easy, fast, and then if they really want to go the whole hog, they can choose this as an extra.
But that would mean that you actually get all of that for free as well. Like if you're pre-baking this, you get everything else for free. So okay, that's the ideal solution, but that
sorry,
will need a bit of work.
one correction. One correction. We are not caching the HTML. We would be caching the screenshot
the underlying
and image instead.
Okay.
The image instead.
Because it is not.
Yes, we can do that. Yes, you can do that.
Yeah,
you can do that. Yes.
The reason we can do this is because we define item view as something non-interactive. So we don't have to worry if the user put input box there and
I have to get going now. It's 8 o'clock. So I'll catch up with you guys later.
So there was.
All right, see you, James.
Okay, James. I'll talk to you later about this. Boone, I haven't get the chance to express my third point. I just finished two. Sorry. The third point being regarding to what is really simple. I tried not to make the Drupal mistake. I regard simplicity being not being like you have 3 lines of code, this problem is solved, but being like you can copy, paste, and modify, and this problem is solved. Developers are probably happier to write 100 lines of code if they are working without new concepts, and then not 3 lines of code where they have to work with new concepts. And the reason where I say this is Drupal mistake is because I made a career mistake and lost 1 or 2 years of my career because of that. So there was a good competition between Drupal and WordPress back in the early 2000s. And I studied both systems for a few months, and I decided to set up a web company that offered Drupal-based solution, because many things that would require coding in WordPress or require customizing a forking plugin and modify it in WordPress can be simply done by taking abstracted component. It's a little bit like template you mentioned. For example, you can have a tag, and the tag can be used for path as well as being used for other stuff. Basically, you have quite a few Lego pieces that you can piece them together without having to fork code and modify them. And forking code and modify, I think, is a real evil, because back in the day, security problems are plentiful. And if you fork someone's code, they upgrade their part to solve the security problem. Your fork still have the security problem. So I think that WordPress represented a bad design. And after many years, it turns out that Drupal, where you can simply configure things or write a Drupal configuration file, which is a little bit similar to Apache configuration file, a little bit long, but still quite concise. It never took off. People really don't like the idea. People like to write 100 lines of JavaScript and HTML that they can customize WordPress for. They don't like to learn new concept. I'm thinking template has additional complex concept as a baggage here. Really, it's not simplicity. It's the opposite of simplicity. That's a strong personal view, I know, but.
Okay.
Yeah, knowledge like how many fields can you pass to a template? Are there image fields or text fields? Are they translatable? And if there's a key value pair, can the value be multi-value or single value? And oh, by the way, if you use template language version 2020, you're actually able to put SVG in it. It's just not just pass the PNG. All this knowledge. It's a little bit like how Drupal configuration has to take care of the component, and yeah. Yes.
To bring it into this specific example of the item view, like I agree, there's probably a tipping point where a template can be more complex, even though it's maybe conceptually, if there's less lines of code, but in a template, there'll be a point where the template can be too big, and therefore it will lose against customizing an existing thing. But if we are talking about a simple line item that is icon and text and subtext, that template is probably going to win over a familiar customization job.
Yeah, but it's still
my
baggage.
opinion.
When somebody wrote these directives, like specify what, unless you make it really modular, unless you make the template as a separate module than TokenScript, which can work on top of TokenScript. Otherwise, whenever you release stuff, you have to take care of the TokenScript as a pretty written.
I guess that's my question. Is that part of TokenScript per se, the definition of that, or is in the TokenScript it will be template one, like standard simple cell view, and then in the TokenScript engine it will render it a certain way? Maybe that's getting into implementation. But
so to address that, I hope TokenScript is not controlling much on the view. So it leaves the implementation. Say, let's say it declares the view is rendered with JSX, or declares the view is rendered with WASM, or with support of React, or without support of React. Then the TokenScript engine decides whether or not it is supported. So it's going to be more like HTML than it is like Microsoft Access. So if you know Microsoft Access, you're able to produce an application as well by putting buttons here and there and mapping the data source with the stuff. But what it stores is that it requires you to use Microsoft Access. That's because they are selling the product. Similar to iPhone, they're selling iPhone the product. TokenScript, if somebody develop a new rendering engine that is not JSX but template with field list, then they should be able to define their own internal syntax. But it's not going to be like JavaScript, but it's going to be maybe curly bracket with field name, one following each other. Then as long as that TokenScript engine supports that, it's going to be okay. But if we develop it into TokenScript, you're going to carry this baggage. Yeah, that's just my thinking.
I'm wondering what's next step from here. Is there a way to summarize these different perspectives on paper so we can sort of see them and reflect upon them a bit clearer? Or because yeah, just a thought.
Well, if you like to, you can post and describe what you think is the best on community.tokenscript.org. I would propose, and I hope to get James Brown agree too, but he left, that we use what James Brown proposed really early on. That is, it's a section of JavaScript and HTML that does not use JSX and can be marked as dirty and discarded. Yeah, just HTML and JavaScript. And we might produce a default one, which is also HTML and JavaScript, or that we might produce a default one that is hard-coded, not HTML and JavaScript, but we provide the example HTML and JavaScript as if the hard-coded stuff is produced by the HTML and JavaScript, just for the copy-paste modify model.
Yeah, no, that sounds all right.
That's what I would propose.
Not sure I'm going to be the best to capture that, but
yeah,
I guess we got to start somewhere.
Yeah, Boone, like nothing goes on until Boone say yes. So
no, I kind of suggested both approach. So
yeah. Okay.
So I don't need either one to win.
Okay. So I would simply propose my final stuff in the community post, and if you want to propose an ideal solution, just follow that post. Okay. And without any objection, I will simply go with what I proposed.
If maybe I'm asking too much, but if just as a precursor to the solution is sort of definition of the problem, sort of, or of what we're trying to achieve, to say, I mean, I can help with that bit to say, these kind of developers want to put this in a view. It needs to be simple to use, but also customizable for certain use cases, just to sort of frame the problem first before then, and then have the solution. I don't know if I'm asking too much for that.
Yeah, so that on this on the that's one level of requirement. The other level of requirement would be that we want to support token issuers to have activities. So if you know Alipay, for example, every time when you try to pay Alipay, often there is a when you try for pay for the mattress, and they will say actually this mattress seller is doing 10% discount, or if you pay more than $100, you get 10% return only today, or that you have 3 chances paying for this shop to get a red packet. They do a lot of things on the payment logic. And for example, a payment token would want to do this logic and being able to customize the checkout process, the way the tokens are displayed in the wallet, and the way the balance is displayed is pretty important for this activity to go on. So basically, to give the token issuers the capacity to do activities, business activities.
Yeah, I agree that capacity should be there, and also then, but prior to that, the basics for most people.
Yeah, so
well.
I would say that your description is what problem do we have to solve. What I described is why it makes sense to solve this problem. I think that's, yeah.
Okay, yeah. If you start something, then I can try follow from that. That'd be good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I just write stuff into the post. Okay.
Awesome. That sounds good.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Talk later. Yeah.
Good. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.